Okay. In Halacha, I am not going because it's officially a women's class Wednesday night, and probably more than half the people on this Zoom class are women. So we're going to skip the dinam like tzitzis and tefillin. And when things go back to normal, we'll be back on show. We'll learn those dinam with the men. But we're going to start tonight with the dinam of Mezuzah, because Mezuzah is a very applicable din, especially nowadays. Like we know, whenever there's issues, the Rebbe always used to tell people to check the Mezuzah. The Gemara tells an interesting story with the famous sage Onkelos. Onkelos wrote the commentary on the side of the Chumash in Aramaic. He was one of in the era of the Tanoim. And Onkelos, his uncle was the Roman emperor. And this Onkelos decided to become a Jew. So king got very upset with him, and he sent a bunch of soldiers to Onkelos to bring him back. When the soldiers came to him, he spoke to them, and they all converted to Judaism. So the king was angry, and he sent another group of soldiers. And he said, don't have any discussions with them. Anyway, it came out, they had a discussion, and again, they all converted. And the third time he said to them, the third group he said to them, listen, I don't want you to talk to him, just grab him and bring him back. So that's what they did. They grabbed him, and he was walking out. There was a mezuzah on the doorpost, and he touched the mezuzah, which, by the way, halacha says that's the source of touching a mezuzah, kissing a mezuzah. He touched the mezuzah, and he says to them, what is this? He says to the Roman soldiers, what is this? So they said, the Gemara says, they said to him, no, you tell us, we don't know. So Uncle says, let me tell you what this is. Normally in the world, the servants stand on the outside and they protect the king who is in the inside. In Judaism, it's the opposite. God is standing on the outside. The mezuzah is Hashem's name, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The mezuzah is on the outside, and the king, standing on the outside, protects the Jews who are in the inside of the home. When they heard that, they all converted to Judaism, and the emperor got so fed up with them, he said, okay, let him be already. Yeah, he'll end up converting too many more people. He just said, okay, let it be. So we see from there a number of interesting things with the concept of a mezuzah. The Gemara says, I'm just giving this introduction to the dinim of mezuzah to understand the importance of a mezuzah. The Gemara says, whoever is meticulous in the mitzvah of mezuzah, which means not only meticulous that they have a mezuzah, every doorway and is put in the proper place, and they have beautiful mezuzahs, what's called muhudadika mezuzahs, very beautiful mezuzahs. And that means, the Gemara says, if you're mahadir, zohir in the mitzvah of mezuzah, you merit, the Gemara says, to a beautiful home. Azar ben mezuzah zeichel adir no, the Gemara says. And also we know, the Torah says about mezuzah, leman yarichun yamecha v'yimei v'necha. We say in Shema, in the second paragraph of Satim al mezuzah b'yisecha v'yisharecha, leman yirbu yamechem, that you should live long. In fact, the word mezuzah, mezuzas, mezuzais b'yisecha, the word mezuzais, if you play with the letters, you move them around, you get zaz, maves. Zaz means moving, maves means death. And therefore, the concept of a mezuzah, obviously the Rambam says you're not allowed to do the mitzvahs because it protects us or because something is fantastic about it. We do a mitzvah because Hashem said so. But in addition to that, there are certain what's called a sgula, things, good things that come out of the mezuzah or out of mitzvahs, and that's also in addition to doing a mitzvah because Hashem does it. In fact, the Rambam speaks very sharply against the person that does the mitzvah only because of the protection. We do the mitzvah of mezuzah because Hashem commanded us in the Torah to put mezuzahs on the doorposts. It says, concerning the mezuzah. Hashem yishmer tzeischa uveyecha. Hashem guards us. Tzeischa uveyecha, when you go out, when you come home. Mezuzah, halacha says, protects the person not only when they're home, in the house where the mezuzah is, it protects you even when you're out of the home. It's actually built-in insurance. In fact, there were many people that the Rebbe told them, the previous Rebbe and the Rebbe told them, certain individuals, they should have a mezuzah in the car, not on the door of the car, just in the glove compartment or in the car, they should have a mezuzah as an additional protection. It's known that in the previous Rebbe's writing table, upstairs in 770, the second floor, where the previous Rebbe lived and had his office where he used to see Chassidim, there was a mezuzah on the table. So there is a concept of mezuzah protecting the Jews, and it makes us live long, and it's a very, very important mitzvah. In fact, the Gemara says that whoever has tefillin on their head, tefillin on their head and hand, and they have tzitzis on the garments, and they have mezuzahs on the doorpost, so Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Eimed, whoever has that is a chazaka, he's like, so to speak, guaranteed that he won't sin, because he's completely surrounded with mitzvahs. Mitzvahs of tefillin, binding your mind and heart to Hashem, wearing tzitzis that remind us of all the mitzvahs of the Torah, and the mitzvah of mezuzah, which is a protection. There's a lot of stories told about mezuzah. Maybe as we continue in the halachas of mezuzahs, the stories will come up, but I just want to get a little bit into the actual dinim of mezuzah in the actual mitzvah of mezuzah. It's a positive mitzvah to have a mezuzah on every doorpost. Not only the front door, but you have to have a mezuzah on every doorpost of the home. Even if you have many, many rooms, but every room needs a mezuzah. Now, a room, what is the criteria in a room to be obligated in a mezuzah? So number one, we know rooms that are not used for proper things, for instance, bathrooms, showers, those don't have a mezuzah because it would be disrespectful to put the mezuzah in a bathroom door or in a mikveh door where the actual mikveh is, or in a shower, if you don't have, even if it's not connected to the bathroom, that's a shower room, you don't put a mezuzah over there because it's not a proper, not a dignified place to have a mezuzah. The room of a mezuzah, whether it has a door or not, if it has a door frame, even without the door, needs a mezuzah. But you don't make a bracha on a mezuzah unless there's actually a door. A doorway demands a mezuzah, but because there's different opinions in halacha about it, so we put up a mezuzah and we do it without a bracha. What is the size of the room that needs a mezuzah? It has to be considered a type of a prominent room that would need and demand a mezuzah. So the mezuzah would have to be in a room that's 4 amis by 4 amis, which is 4 square cubits. Now that is approximately 6 feet. An amma is approximately 1.5 feet. So therefore, a room which is 6 by 6 needs a mezuzah. 6 feet by 6 feet would need a mezuzah. What happens if the room is not 6 by 6? Because 6 by 6, let's say, is 36 square feet. What happens if a room is 9 by 4 feet, which is also the square of 36? So there's a very big machlekes in halacha if that room needs a mezuzah or not. So therefore, the custom is, unless if it's a closet, even if it's a room like you have many times balconies, that could be a very long balcony, and it's, let's say, 2 feet wide, but it's 18 feet long. So then the halacha is you put up a mezuzah there, probably without a bracha, because from the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Shabbos, it seems to imply that it has to be actually 6 feet by 6 feet, not 9 by 4 or 18 by 2. But the custom is to put up a mezuzah in that room. Okay, so you need what?
How many brachas do you make? You're making
Well, I'm not talking yet about brachas. It's a good point. How many brachas do you make? Okay, I'll say that aspect of it now, but we're going to discuss it much more later. If you're putting up a number of mezuzahs at one time, you make one bracha for all the mezuzahs. But sometimes people don't have all the mezuzahs at one time, so you have to make sure that what you want to make a bracha, you should make sure that there's at least one room you're putting on that has a door, because then you're able to make a bracha properly. So you need a room. The criteria of a mezuzah room is 6 feet by 6 feet, 4 amas by 4 amas, which is 36 square feet. According to all opinions, if it's squared 6 feet by 6 feet, you would need a mezuzah. According to others, if it will be 9 by 4, 18 by 2, you should also have a mezuzah. The custom is you put up a mezuzah. Whether you should make a bracha or not is another question. You have to ask a shaila when it comes up, because there's a lot of different issues also concerning the obligation and the bracha of a mezuzah, if it's off a big room, and various different things. Now, where is a mezuzah put? A mezuzah is put on the right side, walking into the room. Right side walking into the room, that means if you're walking into the house, the right side, where you're walking into the house, is where you put the mezuzah. What happens if you can go either way? You can walk this way, you can walk that way. So then, I'm talking now halacha. You have a more important room and a less important room. The mezuzah goes from the less important room into the more important room. Let's say, I'll just give you a simple example. You have a kitchen and a dining room. And let's say you can get into both of them equally. Both ways you can get into the dining room, to the kitchen. What room is more important? The dining room or the kitchen?
Depends who you ask.
If you ask, okay, I'm going to tell you halacha, but first I'll say to make my wife happy. If you ask a woman, she'll say the kitchen, because they're busy making the food. If you ask a man, he'll say the dining room is, because that's where you eat. So for the men, the dining room is more important. For the women, the kitchen is more important. But halachically, by the way, the dining room is more important than the kitchen. Why? Because in the kitchen, you make the food to eat. The purpose of making the food is to eat. And if you're eating in the dining room, so the dining room is why you're having the kitchen. So then the kitchen would be going to mezuzah from kitchen into dining room. But there's a very interesting Chabad custom, and the Rabbeim were very, very adamant about this. And therefore, when you put up mezuzah, we'll discuss what needs to be done in about putting up the mezuzah. I just want to mention, to go away for a minute, when a person buys a mezuzah, contrary to public belief, the case is not that important. I mean, it might be in the looks, it might be important. The mezuzah is really the inside case, an inside mezuzah. And I just want to explain that people should understand this, because people always ask the question, when you tell them a mezuzah is $35, $36. I mean, the good mezuzahs today, you want to buy a nice, beautiful mezuzah, it's $120 per mezuzah. And people will tell you, what are you, crazy? $120 for a mezuzah? Or like they'll tell you, $800 for a pair of tefillin, or $1,800 for a pair of tefillin. What are you, crazy? How could it be so much? Stop to think for one moment, okay? The parchment is very expensive. The mezuzah has to be written on parchment. The mezuzah has the two portions of the Shema. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad V'Ahavta, and the second one we say in davening, V'Hayam Shema Yatishmu. Has two parshas of Shema. It has to be written by a sefer, by a scribe, very complicated halachas in writing a mezuzah, and he has to write it with a feather, with ink. It takes, just make a simple cheshbon, simple calculation. It could take 2 hours to write a mezuzah. Not only that, mezuzah you can't correct most of the times. If a guy made a mistake and he realized it later, he has to start all over again. It's a very difficult halacha. Sefer Torah you don't have to write in order. Mezuzah has to be written in order. Tefillin has to be written in order. A Sefer Torah has to be written, but you can fix things, and it really doesn't matter. Tefillin and mezuzah is sometimes very hard to fix things if they're mamish not kosher. So if you figure out, make a cheshbon. A guy works 2 hours to write it, plus the parchment. Okay, that's just the guy that writes it. So how much does a person need to make an hour? How much is the parchment? And then the sefer sells it to a middleman who sells it to a middleman who sells it to a middleman, like everything else we buy. The masks might cost to manufacture. Today we're into masks. The masks might cost 10 cents to manufacture, but you're paying $6 for it. Because by the time everybody has to make money, and then by the time it goes through 4 different people, you're paying $6 a mask. That really costs 10 cents. And tefillin mezuzah is not like that. Nobody's making big bucks over here. It takes a long time to write the mezuzah. The mezuzah has to be written very slowly and very carefully. And there's a lot of dinim involved in the writing of a mezuzah. So that people should understand that a mezuzah needs to be written in a beautiful way. And a beautiful mezuzah is a better life insurance policy. It's a home insurance and life insurance policy. And if you think about it, it's not that much money when you're writing a mezuzah. Okay, so let's go back now to where do we put the mezuzah? So Chabad is a very, very interesting custom based on the Rebbe Rashab and the Rebbe Marash. That is, how do we know when you have 2 rooms? How do we know if I'm going from room A to B or I'm going from room B to A? So Chabad has a custom that's called Heker Tzir. Heker Tzir means you go by the way the door opens. If a door opens into a room, that's the way you're going in. And if you're going into the room, where does the mezuzah go? On the right side. The mezuzah goes on the right side when you go into the room. The exception to this is the front door. The front door of the house always, the mezuzah is put going in, even if the door opens out.
Door with the door, same thing here.
Not a question doorway. If the door opens in, that's the way you're going in. The door opens out, you put it going out of the room.
Right. If there's a room without a door.
One second, we're not talking about rooms without doors. We're talking about rooms with doors.
Okay.
If the door opens in, you go on the right side going in. The door opens out, so you go into the room facing out, and you put the mezuzah on the right side. There's a story in the Rebbe Rashab and the Rebbe Marash, and the Friedrich Rebbe's house also had that. There was a porch on the 2nd floor. Okay, it was big enough for a mezuzah, but the door opened into the house, not from the house to the porch. The door opened from the porch into the house. And they noticed that the mezuzah was on the right side going into the house. Not from the house out to the porch, which would be the normal way of walking. The porch is on the 2nd floor. So somebody said to the Rebbe Rashab, enter the Friedrich Rebbe, the way the story goes, why, how are you putting the mezuzah going in from the porch to the house? How are you supposed to get onto the porch? He said, take a ladder. That's what he said. In Yiddish, he said, take a ladder and climb up to the porch and then go from the porch into the house. The fact that the door opens into the house, even though seemingly there's no other way to get to the porch but through the house, nevertheless, our minig is, besides the front door, the minig is only the front door. Do you go that way? All the other doors, the way the door opens is the way it goes. Now, sometimes, and this is another questionable thing, what happens if you have a side door and a front door? And many times, people use the side door more than the front door. So which one is the front door, so to speak? Which one is the main door? So the front door always goes right side going in. That's it. If the side door is used more than the front door, then the din is that side door has a din of the main door. That's what the implication is from the Rebbe's letters and things. Then the implication would be that you would put the mezuzah even on the side door, even though the door opens out, you would put the mezuzah going in. But
some front doors open out.
I know.
Not everything opens in. So where would you do it?
I said even if the front door opens out,
Still on
you
the right.
put it on the right side going in.
Okay.
That is the din of the front door.
Okay.
All the other doors that have doors and the doors open, you go basically by the way the door opens. There's an interesting debate, so to speak. What happens if you have a sliding door? You have a sliding door, so then there's different opinions even amongst Chabad Rabbanim. What do you do on a sliding door? And therefore you need to ask a question, where should I put the mezuzah? It depends on a lot of other issues, the size of the porch or other things. But a sliding door, according to many opinions, does not have what's called heket seared, does not have, so to speak, which way it opens because it's sliding side to side. Okay, so you have to, and by the way, if a mezuzah is put on the left side, on the wrong side, it's not kosher. You have to take it down and re-put it on the right side with the bracha. Because you put it on the left side, it's no good. Another point is you can't put two mezuzahs on one door. If somebody does, they are transgressing a negative commandment in the Torah. The Torah says you can't add onto mitzvahs and you cannot deduct from le'seisiv v'le'sigra. You cannot add onto mitzvahs and you cannot deduct mitzvahs. Now the Torah says put one mezuzah on the door. You're going to put two, then you're transgressing a negative commandment of adding onto mitzvahs. So if somebody puts 5 tzitzis on a garment, and they would put 5 tzitzis on the garment, they would be transgressing a negative commandment. And therefore, I know we're not learning tzitzis, but there's an interesting halacha. If somebody has a 5-cornered garment, a pentagon garment, halacha is you put tzitzis only on 4 corners. On the 4 outer corners, whatever that means, you figure out which the most outer 4 corners are, and you put on all 5 corners. You transgress. Not only you're not getting a mitzvah, you're transgressing a negative commandment in the Torah of adding on to the mitzvah. The Torah says 4 tzitzis, not 5 tzitzis. The Torah says you need 1 mezuzah. You're not allowed to have 2 mezuzahs. Okay. Well, generally speaking, trust me, I'm not looking for business, but I do want to mention that when a person moves into a house, or even if it wasn't done, a person should always bring somebody who's knowledgeable in the halachas of mezuzah to come into the house to make sure the mezuzahs are up on the right place. And the Rebbe in many answers said, when the Rebbe used to answer people to check the tefillin and mezuzah, and the Rebbe would answer sometimes, and that also includes the placement of the mezuzah. Just to take off all your mezuzahs and check them by its sofer and they're kosher doesn't mean you're necessarily fulfilling the mitzvah of mezuzah. Because if you don't put it up in the right place, like we said, then it's not kosher. So therefore, when a person moves into a house, or if they haven't done it yet, when they should bring somebody that knows the laws of mezuzah, where they go and where they should be going. and put the mezuzahs there. I just want to mention one more interesting din of mezuzah, because we're far from finished in the laws of mezuzah. But one more interesting mezuzah. If you ever see by Ashkenazim, Sfardim is different. By Ashkenazim, when you look at the mezuzah at a slant, the mezuzah as an angle. Sfardim, by the way, put it straight. Because really, it's an argument between Rashi and Tosfos if a mezuzah should be up or laying down. One opinion says mezuzah should be put up vertical, and another opinion says mezuzah should be put up horizontal. So Poskim write, as a type of a compromise, you put it at an angle. So many commentaries, many codifiers ask, so then it's neither opinion. Because then you're not putting it straight, you're not putting it laying. So which way is it? Sfardim, by the way, their custom is to put the mezuzah straight. They don't put it at an angle, they usually put it straight up. Okay, that's it for mezuzah tonight, and now we're going to go to Tanya. And the Mitzvah Shem next Wednesday night, we'll continue the dinam of mezuzah.